What a great morning. Yeah, thank you, band, because I loved that worship time. This morning we are we're moving on to our new series. So we're kind of moving from Acts and we're looking in the New Testament and we are looking through parables in the New Testament. And this morning I'm looking at the parable of the rich fool. And Malcolm Forbes once famously said, Malcolm Forbes, famous for Forbes magazine, a ridiculously wealthy man, was known for saying, though the person who has the most toys wins. So the person who has the most toys wins. And this is kind of what he built his life on. So he collected cars, he collected houses, he collected gadgets and gizmos and businesses, but basically that was the essence that he lived by. And we know that we live in a society where actually there is that mindset that the person who has kind of the most toys does better. And we live in what I call an upgrade society. We believe we need to upgrade everything. We need to upgrade our phones, we need to upgrade our cars, we need to upgrade our house. Even within our house, we upgrade our appliances and we upgrade even the rooms, redecorate. Some people upgrade on all kinds of things within our lives. But typically, we live in this spend quick, let's upgrade, let's try to go higher and higher society. And as we look at this parable, that's not too dissimilar to the society that Jesus was speaking into. At that time, he was speaking into the Roman Empire. And the empire definitely had this kind of upgrade mentality where it wanted to conquer the most. It wanted to be the biggest empire. It was spreading at this time, not yet, but it was going to spread over 3 different continents. It was a hugely mighty empire obsessed with power. And also he's speaking into a culture which is influenced heavily by Greek hedonism, where pleasure is like the ultimate goal. That you do whatever you need to do in order to find pleasure. And feeding into that as well was Epicurean thought, which is find pleasure, but make sure it doesn't cost you any pain. So do what's comfortable for you. So Jesus is speaking to a society which, our society thousands of years later, I don't think sounds any much different, to be honest. A society that wants to build its own empire, a society which is obsessed with doing whatever gives itself pleasure and actually making sure you're comfortable. I think we can all think actually that it's not too unfamiliar. And so in that, he speaks this parable. And you can join it with me. It's in Luke 12, and we're going from verse 13 to 21. So it says, someone in the crowd said to Jesus, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." Jesus replied, "Man, who appointed me the judge or an arbiter between you?" Then he said to them, "Watch out. Be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions." And he told them this parable. The ground of a certain rich man yielded an abundant harvest. He thought to himself, "What should I do? I have no place to store my crops." Then he said, "This is what I'll do. I will tear down my barns and build bigger ones, and there I will store the surplus grain. And I'll say to myself, you have plenty of grain laid up for many years. Take life easy. Eat, drink, and be merry." But God said to him, "You fool. This night your life will be demanded from you. Then who will get what you have prepared for yourself? This is how it will be with whoever stores up things for themselves, but is not rich towards God." So I read this parable, and Jesus is really clear that this man is a fool. But actually I read it and I think to myself, is he a fool? Or does this guy have good business sense? He's been given this abundant harvest. And he could go, "Oh, this is great. I'm going to spend all of this and I'm going to get myself all these lovely things." But he doesn't. He actually goes, "I'll tell you what I'll do." Has a good plan. I'll have nowhere to fit it, so I'll get some barns taken down. I'll build some bigger barns. I'll put it in there. And then actually, I've got quite a good life set ahead for me. For me, from my perspective, I think surely that's just sensible. In today's society, I don't think we would look badly on anyone who maybe came in to something, who came into abundant harvest, whether that was money, whether they gained another property, whether they, got a pay rise, and then thought to themselves, do you know what? I'm going to put that by. I'm going to put it by, and I'm going to wait and see, and I'm just going to make my life a bit easier. We wouldn't turn around. I mean, maybe you would, but you wouldn't turn around and go, that's really foolish. Would you? Are you with me? Are you not with me? Because I would think to myself, I'm like, that's not foolish. It's not like they're going to Las Vegas, gambling it all away. I'll be like, that's a bit foolish. But actually in my head, I'm like, this kind of makes some sense to me. So why does God call him a fool? And that's what we've really got to dig into today. Why does God call him a fool? And in the last couple of weeks, I'm going to use a little scenario to help unpick this. So, in my daughter's room, Johnny and I, for about a year and a half, decided we were going to put some flowers up in her room, okay? It took forever for us to decide which flowers we're going to buy her, what flowers we're going to get, and it took us so long. So long that the other day I thought, stuff it, I'm just going to do it, and I'm going to buy this garland. And I bought these garlands, they arrived, and I decided, right, now I'm just going to put them up. I'm going to put them up in her room. And I got them, this was a Saturday, and Johnny goes, oh, how are you going to put them up? I was like, I'm just going to use tape. I'm going to use tape to put these up. And Johnny was like, oh, okay, because I've got these little nail hook things. And if you use the nail hook things, then they really last. And I was like, no, in my defensive, I can do this, women's rights, let's be independent manner, yeah? No, I'm going to put this garland up with tape. I know it will work with tape, yeah? I'm getting snappy now because I feel like he's, thinking I'm not capable. And so there I am, putting this garland up in her room with tape. A little bit of time goes past, and it's kind of bedtime by this point. I'm putting Verity to bed, and Verity comes, Mummy, yes, darling. She's like, the garden's starting to fall down a little bit in the middle. That's fine. It is fine, Verity. That thing will stay up, is what my response is. Because I'm thinking, don't you be like Johnny. Don't you think that this garden's not going to last, okay? And she's like, no, okay. I was like, just go to sleep. Anyway, Verity goes to sleep, and I'm literally sat there thinking, I'm now getting worried. Because in my head, I'm like, if the garland does fall down, will she get strangled in the night? And as a mother, you go to the extreme, don't you? I'm like, that's it, I'm going to wake up and my daughter will be dead by the garland, and it's all my fault. And Johnny's going to be there going, oh, you should have really used the nails. And I'm going to be thinking, right. So what happens is then I go into her room. Well, actually, I don't even get to the point where I go into the room because she comes back, little Verity. She loves getting out of bed at night time as well. And she goes, Mummy. She's like, the garland's now nearly completely all fallen down. Of course it has. So I go there and I'm like, I'm just going to have to tuck it right behind the bed so that she doesn't get strangled in the night. Go to bed. I don't sleep well because obviously in my head there's still playing around, even though I've tucked it and you cannot even reach her. I'm still playing in my mind that my daughter's going to get strangled by this garland. And anyway, wake up in the morning, moral of the story, the garland's completely down. Johnny, because he's really good to me, is Johnny, goes, Biff, I've been doing a fair bit of DIY over the years. It might not be something, you remember this conversation, might not be, I don't know what he says, but he kind of intimates, I haven't done DIY over the years, which is true. So he's like, maybe when I say what you could do, just take that on board, really nicely, really gently. And guess what I did on Friday? Just gone. Put the garland up with the nails, and the little hooks, and it's still up, lo and behold. But the moral of the story is, and how this relates to the Bible, which is where we all want to get to, is Johnny must have been stood there. He must have been watching his wife, knowing 100% that what I am doing is completely wasting my time. Because actually I am building something that is not going to last. And he must be sat there thinking, I wish she just trusted me. And, the Lord must sometimes just stand and look at us and go, why have they not just trusted me? Because you are building something with sellotape, yeah, but which isn't going to last, and you are completely wasting your time. And that is in essence what he is saying to this rich fool. He's like, great that you're storing this stuff in barns, but dare I say it, you are wasting your time because you are putting stuff where it's not going to last. And so he's prompting us to think about whether we are doing things in our own strength and we are building an empire, or whether we are building kingdom. And in this parable, we have a really clear difference between empire and kingdom. Because if we're doing things for empire, then we are trying to build something which is just for us, where we believe we are in control of it. We believe our methods work. But actually, we're just building something with the aim of to make it comfortable and easier for ourselves. I put up that garment tape because in that moment, it was easier and it was more comfortable for me to do it like that. Whatever is quickest and easiest and is going to make life easier for ourselves, that's empire. But that isn't kingdom. You know, kingdom says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your mind, and all your soul. And then the second commandment is this, that you love your neighbour as yourself. And sometimes that gets twisted. Sometimes in modern day that gets a bit distorted and we think, oh, we have to love ourselves first and then we can love others. But that isn't what the gospel says. It says, no, we love others in the same manner that we would love ourselves. We treat others as we would treat ourselves. Actually, kingdom building is about putting others and God before ourselves. Because in Philippians 2, verse 3-5, it says, don't be selfish. Don't try to impress others, but be humble and put others before yourself. So kingdom mindset says it might not be quick and it might not be easy, but God and whatever's for God and whatever comes and whatever is for others comes first. And so how do we not waste time? How do we not waste time and build something that is going to last? And the one factor, and we don't often talk about money at all at One Church Dover, okay? We don't talk about it that much, but I am going to talk a little bit about it now because this parable is talking about money. It's called the rich fool. It talks about abundance. And we get quite skewed, I think, in the West about what wealth might look like. I think sometimes we think, oh, I'm not wealthy. I'm not at all. Because we compare ourselves to the likes of the Kardashians or the royal family or people that have umpteen cars or umpteen houses. But the truth of it, that in the West, we are incredibly wealthy. You know? I read this week about a village just outside Calcutta that got their first fridge. Their first fridge for the village. You know? 74% of this world do not own a washing machine. And yet we live in a society where I would say a washing machine, a phone is a necessity. But for 3/4 of the world, it is a luxury item. You know, 60% of houses in the UK at this moment in time have a coffee machine. You know, that's the majority, isn't it? We have a coffee machine. Most of us sitting here, and I know, because I work in a place where I know what real struggle and poverty looks like. And I know that there are some, you might be thinking there, you might be sat there thinking, oh, Beth, you don't know what circumstances I'm in. And I know that there will be people actually, you know the struggle that you're facing, but the majority of us, we are this rich fool. Yeah, we have an abundance of wealth. We've been blessed with so much. And actually the Bible asks us to recognize that all of that abundance, as it does with the rich fool here, he's not a farmer, but he's been blessed that his land has just produced loads of crops. Like that rich fool, we have been given so much and we've been blessed so much by God. Everything we have has come from the Lord. It says every good and perfect gift comes from God. That's what it says in the word. We've been blessed mightily by the Lord. And actually, tithing is a biblical principle where we just recognise that actually God has really blessed us and we just give a bit back. You know, in the Bible, it talks about that 10%, but we just give that bit back to the Lord to recognise that actually, God, you've given us all of this. And I'm saying thank you in response to that. You know, this church, it costs a lot of money to keep running. It takes money to keep going. And actually, we do a huge amount in this church. We do a great kids work. We do great youth work. We're involved in lots of community kind of outreach projects. And therefore, by investing in this, we are investing in God working in the kids. We're investing in God working in the youth. We're investing in God working in the community. It isn't storing up what we have in barns so that our lives can be comfortable. It's about investing in the kingdom so that God can be glorified. And so if you haven't thought about tithing, I'll just ask you to go away, have a thought about that today. Have a think about that today. Katie, if you want to set up, Katie has standing orders. There's a little beep beep thing at the back of the church as well. Get involved. But we can't just invest in the kingdom with our money. Sometimes we love doing that, don't we? Sometimes I'm like, yes, take the money. Don't worry, don't ask questions. But sometimes as well, we can also serve. And Scott's been talking about, and we've been talking about being a multi-generational church. And sometimes we want to serve and get involved in blessing out other generations. You know, we have the kingdom. Last week we had 40 children in this place. That's amazing, isn't it? 40 children. Yeah, if they might not well be your children, and I understand that, but we have the future of the church out there. We've got God's kingdom is out there. You know, and we have the opportunity to invest in them. We can pray. If you hate kids, I understand that. But you can pray for them. You can definitely pray for the children's leaders, yeah? You can get involved. You can help to serve with the kids' work. You can invest in building up the future leaders of the church. And I don't want to miss out people, because at the same time, you can invest by serving and giving a cup of coffee. I know there's people in this church that are fueled by coffee. Yeah? And so you could be fueling somebody else. You could join a life group and start to invest in so many other people around you. You can join Carol with One Generation and invest and give back to those that once sowed into you. You know, there's so much to get involved in and invest in God's kingdom. So we're not just giving or storing up things for ourselves or making life easy and comfortable for ourselves. And then the last thing I want to just speak about in the final few minutes is this parable. It doesn't just tell us to drift from an empire mindset into a kingdom mindset, but it also begs the question of who is God? When you read this parable in context, first of all, Jesus is talking to the Pharisees. He actually reminds them that he is the person who decides to go, who makes a judgment on heaven or hell. He also talks about and asks people to look at the sparrows. And are the sparrows not looked after? Then the rest of after this parable, the chapter goes into talking about do not worry, because look at the lilies of the field and how he clothes them. The parable in context of the chapter actually speaks to who God is. It says, like Johnny would have been there thinking, does she not know who I am, that I am so much better at putting that garland up at Beth, which is the truth. Yeah, I should have trusted his advice. God sometimes stands there and is like, do you not know that I am the provider? I am the provider. Why are you storing your stuff up in barns when I've told you I'll give you whatever you need? Because that's what it says in the Bible. Yes, he might not give us all the toys that we might want, but he provides for our needs. He asks us to look at the sparrows of the air and look at how they are provided for, and the lilies of the field and how they're provided for. And in essence, we know through the Bible, through the feeding of the 5,000, through manna provided through the Israelites in the desert, that our Lord is a Lord who provides. So in this, there is this massive assurance from God to say, don't just take control of your own empire, where you get to keep things safe and you get to look after these things. But actually, nothing will last in that little empire. It's like the rich man who builds his house on sand and not on rock. That actually you get to look after that and you're in control of that, but actually you've got an immense amount of worry in that, thinking, is it going to collapse any moment? He says, please don't do that. But instead, the Lord says, build your house on rock, on a firm foundation, as we've sung this morning, on something that will last. Invest in his kingdom, but trust that he is God. And so I'll just invite you to stand. I'll invite the band to come up, and please have the prayer team to the side as well, if that's okay. And I really feel prompted that this morning, maybe out of worry, as I said, the context around this parable is a lot about worry, about storing stuff up in barns, because actually you're worried about what your future might like if you don't take control of it yourself. And the Lord wants you to remind you this morning that he has you. He's got you. You mean more to him than the sparrows. And I want to just say that if you know that you need prayer to shift that mindset of releasing some control over the things you have in your life and letting God have control over the things in your life, please go and get some prayer this morning. Please allow God to be the person who puts up that garland for you so that it lasts. Don't go through life sticking stuff up with sellotape, knowing that it will fall down at any moment and you're just wasting your time. But instead, build a life where you are investing in the kingdom. You are listening to him and you're building something that lasts. And if you'd like prayer for that, just say, go and get it this morning. Thank you.